Howdy, folks. I hope you're well. Apologies for the slight delay. Been a day of technical issues, not helped by the fact that I smashed and shattered my laptop screen. My laptop is a big part of my life, and I was gutted. I've never damaged a Apple product or a laptop before in my life, so not very happy. Trying to do too many things at once, and it shattered. So I have another trip to Leicester tomorrow. Fortunately, Apple Care comes to the rescue, and hopefully I can get a screen replaced in time, ready for being able to use it over the weekend. So it's been one of those days today. And then I just came to go live in its normal way. And yes, that's not this app that I use wasn't working correctly. So it's been one of them. It's been one of them. Engine day. Right. So welcome and thank you very much for joining us. It's good to see people on. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to look at some race results that either came in late or I only caught them late. I'm not, because of this technical issue, going to be able to share the pictures of them like I normally do. So I'm going to just be reading them out to you as I see them. Now, this is a result and a half here. The first one I'm reading out is Jason Bateman's result, flying from Yelverton. He took first there, flying time of 1 hour and 40 minutes, 95 miles. He also picked up 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Well done to you, Jason. Well done. The next is a unbelievable in the Bristol South Road Federation, flying from Exeter on the 31st. And R&J Whiteside took the top 20 in the Fed, flying 68 miles. The flying time was 1 hour and 12 minutes, and they took the top 20. That is a stormer of a result. Unbelievable. Well done to you. A race from Talbany, 10 members sent 44 birds. P. Dandy and B. Bushell took the first 2 flying there on the 31st, again from Talbot. What else have we got? We have more. And then moving on to the Dander Hall Racing Pigeon Club. 21 Loft sent 503 birds, flying from Wakefield. And H. Atkin and Sons took the first 2 spots there. F. Robertson took 3rd, 4th, and 5th as well. B. Black 6th and 7th. A.W. Robertson coming in at 8th. And W. Kinnear and A.W. Robinson again at 10. So well done to you there on the Dander Hill Racing Club. So yeah, that was a hell of a good result was there. So they're the results for this this week. As I said earlier, it's an open discussion today. I have things to talk about, of course, as always. But I want to talk about a few things. I want to know what talk. Let's see who's on. Chris Davis, Anthony Bracken are in. I did miss a few people coming in, so I apologize if I miss you. Miklos is in. Gary Tomlinson in. Thank you very much, Gary. for your compliments. Anthony, Jason Bateman, hope you heard your shout out, mate. Jeff Sylvester, Visser, Liam, Gary Holiday, Liam Prince, Stuart Maloney, and Jacko Rogers. Thank you for joining us. I'm all right, Jeff, to answer your question. I'm not as good as I want to be, and as I've said earlier on, I'm not particularly on my A. As I mentioned earlier, I've got this horrible thing called frozen shoulder, which I've had for over 6 months now, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse. But we will get there and carry on. I hope you saw yesterday the live. I know there was a few sound issues reported. Apologies for that. The live that we did over at Mark Walker's place, showing you what he's got going on over there. It's a pretty impressive setup. He's got 2 buildings, and he's got his Rudy Van Reeth pigeons in one, and then he's got his transport business pigeons and all the holding area in the other one. Let me just grab for those of you who didn't see it, let me just grab this is not, I just wanted to show you the level of how he's trying to level up with this stuff. It's not a promotional hour or anything like that, but this is his catalog that he's had done for these birds, and it's a pretty impressive setup that he's got there. Like I said, I'm going to be broadcasting live from his open day on the 15th of September. And I'm going to be there covering everything, covering it live, be showing you around, and I will show a lot of the principal pigeons that he's got, and I'll be getting him and or others to tell you more about them. They're a hot topic at the moment. They're the hot bird they're in favor. And a weird thing really is, because Mark has got or had the contract with Rudy Van Reeth. The weird thing now is that Rudy is having to pack up on medical advice. All of the remaining original birds will be being sold off over the coming months. So actually that means that Gary's got, the biggest stud there. He'll have the most originals around. Let's see who else is on. We've got Willie Lennox is in, Reggie Howells is in, Pete Berry, Paul Littlewood, Maine McElwain, Darren Aitken, and we've got people in. No, I haven't ever been to Liam Market, Jeff. I'd like to go, actually, just for the experience of it. I'd like to go one day. Yeah, that would be a good thing to do. So I had a question come in, and I'm hoping the people on here can help the person who asked the question. And one of the questions was the easiest way to sex a bird, right? Before I forget, if you want to come and join us, if you want to come and join me on this, you can simply go and click the link that I've just put in there. Now you need to download the BeLive.tv app, and you can get that from the Google store, or you can get that from the Apple store. And you just need to download the free app. It's a completely free app. And then when you've downloaded the app, all you need to do is click on this link. If you want to come and join and you want to be a guest on here and you want to talk about anything we're talking about tonight, you've got something specifically you would like to bring to the show tonight, just click on that app link once you've downloaded the app. I will see you come in as a guest on my screen, and then I can bring you in as a guest. And anybody's welcome. The only two rules are no negativity and no swearing. That's it. And when I say about no negativity, I don't mean no debate and no different viewpoints. I just mean no specific negativity. So we've got some questions coming in. Wooly, the Van Reeth Open Day sale is on the 15th, that day that I'll be covering. There's 160 birds for sale there. I have actually had some people asking me if they will be able to buy some remotely. I haven't spoken to Mark about that, but I will be speaking to him, see if there's anything we can do to help facilitate people wanting to buy remotely. I had somebody in Malta asking me earlier on, actually. Duke Spitzer's in. Thank you very much for watching, Duke. And Jeffrey McMullen's in as well. Thanks for watching, Jeffrey. So, first topic that I wanted to bring on Facebook, if I could ask on their behalf and bring this subject up, what is the easiest way, in your opinion, of being able to sex a young bird? Now, I did have a very good and interesting picture sent to me, but unfortunately it was before my last laptop problem, and I can't find it. And somebody showed me quite a detailed picture of the vent structure on a 10-day-old, 10, 12-day-old young bird. If you've got any advice on how to sex a young bird, any tips, please let us know. Yeah, the feet together, Chris, toes being longer, out external toes being the same length equals hen, one longer equals cock, is my interpretation. Let me know if that's accurate. But if there's anything else as well, any tips on that? And if you're watching this on the replay, if you could put in there, and I will make sure the person asking that question gets the feedback, which would be very good. Thank you very much. Remember, guys, to share, because we are now broadcasting from the Racing Pigeon International page, which is where this show will come from every time moving forward. A lot of people are used to watching it on my timeline, and we're now broadcasting, or will be, because like I said before, we're going to be having guest hosts coming in, and they will be coming in from the page. They'll be doing the guest hosting of the show, and we're using this page. So please remember to share it out with people, just so people now know that it's coming from the Racing Pigeon International page. And if you can just give us a share, that would be very good. Jack Berry says, give it a shake. If it rattles, it's a cock. Willie Lennox says, I use a magnet and a string. Seems to be pretty accurate, mate. Thanks for letting us know that. But any more, let us know. Thank you very much for that. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight. I'm going to be at the RPRA One Loft final on Sunday, subject to weather, but it's looking all right at the moment from what I can see. I'm going to be covering that live throughout the day down there, covering the RPRA race there. One of the other things I put out on Facebook earlier is I put out a poll in our group, actually, and I asked about the time. And I said, I picked 9 o'clock because I figured it give people ample time to, get in from work, sort their pigeons out, sort the family stuff out. But I'd like your opinions on the time of the show. Whether you think this time works best for you. If it's the best for you, great. But if not, I am open to the idea of changing the time if enough people. I can do realistically Mondays and Thursdays. Realistically, I could do a 6 till 7 slot. We're going to try and keep it to an hour, but realistically, if it goes over, it is what it is. But we're going to aim to get it to the hour. We're looking at. Do you want it 9 till 10? as it currently is? Would you prefer 6 till 7, which I suspect is going to be too early for people? The time everybody gets everything done they need to in their normal regular lives. 7 till 8, is that better for you, or 8 till 9? Maybe it's worth pushing it forward 8 till 9, so it's not as late, because I know some people have said to me 9 till 10 is a little bit late. Maybe 8 till 9 is a good compromise. I don't know. I would be happy to get feedback. And if you're in our RPI group, and if you're not, why are you not? If you're not in our RPI group, then you need to join the group as it's scrolling down here right now. Go to facebook.com/groups/Racing Pigeon International and join. And then I would like your vote on that I put out on the poll earlier on about the time. Right. It seems to be a favorite thing, and I'm going to talk about it again. One Love races. I'm just going to spend 5 or so minutes talking about some developed ideas from our last conversation. I've been speaking to the people that run OneLoftRacing.com. I've had some dialogue backward and forward with them, and I'm going to look to help going on. They've got the Racing League going on, and not enough people know about it, and it's a great thing they're doing. If you haven't checked it out yet, in the comments, so you can go and check it out. 1 second. So this is the link here, and if you go and check it out, I can't share my screen tonight, so I would share the website. I've got this ridiculous thing going on, but have a look. It's on a link. They've got the One Love Racing League going on, and it's I think it's a great thing that they're doing. Their entire website is obviously dedicated to One Love Racing, but they've got the Racing League, and I just think not enough people know about it, and I want to really help them promote it. So I'm talking with them about being able to cross what we've got going on, but the One Love Racing League, the World League that they've got, is a really good idea, and I really want to help them get it out there. And it fits well into the syndicate stuff I'm doing. I'm not looking to, do what they're doing. I want to do the syndicate stuff. I want to offer people the chance to be able to join syndicates, whether they be own bird supplied or bird supply for them. And I want to do that. That's something I'm going to be pushing with, because I think it opens up the sport in so many ways for people to be able to join syndicates. Incidentally, if you or you know of anybody that would be potentially interested in supplying birds to this syndicate system and to the syndicates we're going to be offering, please drop me a message and let me know. We are going to be looking for good quality pigeons to be supplied to the non-flying syndicates, as we're calling them, i.e. people that don't keep their own birds, i.e. member of the public or ex-flyers and what have you. So if you are interested, or you know somebody that you think would be ideal to be able to supply as those, let us know. But go and check that website out. I really like what they've got going on. They put a lot of work and time and effort into it. And the idea of that Racing League, the World Racing League for One Loves, is a good thing. Like I said, I'm going to look to work with them and help promote what they've got going on, because they're doing good things. I'm just looking at some more comments going on. Okay. We got some questions. Well, I've got some comments coming in, and I'll just answer those now. Tom Power said, an old wives' tale according to my wife, but I do it the gypsy way. I have a darning needle on the length of cotton. You hold it above the bird's back. It moves from side to side. It's a hen. If it circles, it's a cock. that would be fascinating to test on a scale. Fascinating to actually test and properly chart whether that actually works. I would love to do that. Paul Little would say, would love to stay and watch. Need to be up at 2:45. Blimey. So you like 9 o'clock. Okay, that's great. Evening, John. I hope you're well, mate. So Wooly Lennox is saying the same. If it moves from head to tail, it's a cock. It's a hen if it goes in circles. Chris Bennett says, Mark, in your opinion, what's the best one-off race to enter? That's rather a subjective answer that I need to give, or it's not. It's hard to be objective because it's different horses for courses. I'm going to just put that link out again. If anybody wants to be a guest, download the BeLive app and using that link there. And talking of guests, I've had a bit of a lull in guests because I've been busy to where I'm not being able to chase the guests I want, but I have a list of them and I'm going to try and get them on. So we are going to be having fixed guests coming up shortly. So coming back to your question, Chris, I'll answer it slightly like you could argue a politician, but I don't mean to be like that. It depends what you want, right? If you look at Gary Tomlinson's race, that's a channel race. You know, that's a hard channel race. Flying about 100 miles further than the Wild Atlantic. So a lot of it depends on, you know, it depends what kind of pigeons you've got as well. It depends on what kind of birds you've got because, you know, the Wild Atlantic and the distance it does, despite the fact that it is a hard, challenging race point, at the end of the day, it's 180 miles and it's that obviously is more, you know, more of a sprint bird. Whereas Gary's race, the Who Dares Wins race, that's more to a harder, longer, slog it out type bird, if that makes sense. So ultimately, what kind of birds you've got, and I know the argument would be, well, you know, a pigeon doesn't know how far it's supposed to race, but you know what I'm saying within the general realms of it. I would say it depends on what kind of birds you've got. If you're asking me my opinions of the races that I would go in, I can only really say the ones that I've had direct experience of, and they would be at the moment the Wild Atlantic and the Who Dares Wins that Gary Tomlinson runs. So Sean Hunt's Wild Atlantic and Gary Tomlinson's Who Dares Wins. Obviously, I am going to be covering other races. I'm going to be covering the 2 down in Portugal at the end of the month. And as far as I'm concerned, they are both very good races. I'm covering the RPRA race, and I know that's highly thought of. I've not heard about anybody say anything about it at all. So again, it comes back to your own preference and what have you. But I would definitely say, in no particular order, Who Dares Wins, Wild Atlantic, RPRA. That's UK and Ireland picks for me. Obviously, the 2 in Portugal, you know, one of those races, the biggest race in Europe, one-off race in Europe. And I know a lot of people love those races. So I would definitely put it this way. I'm going to be entering in all of these races that I'm talking about. I'm going to be entering in. There's other ones, but I can't really comment on at the moment because I haven't covered them yet. Some I may end up covering, some I won't. Certainly, personally, I'm going to be looking to put birds next year into all of the main ones that I can. And I like the Victoria Falls one from what I know of it. Again, I haven't got any personal knowledge of it yet. Obviously, the South African $1 Million one as well, and the Tenerife one as well, and the Grand one's in my radar. And then there's a couple in the States I quite like as well. I like the Hoosier one. So again, I haven't really answered your question very well, but again, a lot of it does depend on the distance that your birds are best suited at. Like I said, the Wild Atlantic caters to the shorter birds, although it's still a hard race. And the Who Dares Wins is definitely a slugfest because of that channel. Yeah, so like Pete says, Who Dares? Well, I don't think Who Dares Wins was sprint based. I think that mileage for young birds over the channel you can't class as a sprint. I think for young birds to do fillets, I wouldn't class that personally. But anyway, I hope that answers your question, at least somewhat, and gives you a bit of an input. Yeah, I mean, the idea of long distance one-off race, like I said, one-off races will evolve, develop over the coming years. It would be nice to see different types of races for different types of people, and lots of smaller ones, develop. A real long distance one-off race. The problem with that, as one-off races are set up at the moment, is they're not really. There's not many yearling races out there. So for it to be a proper, what I would consider a proper one-off race, then that's young birds. But that kind of falls back to my idea long term, and some things may develop like this, of having old bird, young bird races, to where actually, the one-off experience for these birds is over a 2-3 year period, because of course to fly properly long distance, 500 miles plus, those birds have got to develop, and that's kind of why you don't see it really. Chris Bennett says at the moment they need a rocket oxide. So yeah, John Gent says channel is a really tough one for young birds. I would look long and hard before entering one-off race with a channel involved. But again, it's horses for courses. It's some people won't enter that because there's a channel, and there's races out there that don't have the channel. Again, like I was saying earlier, it's horses for courses. John says, I think one-off races for youngsters up to 175, 200 mile, and then you can carry them into yearling races 350, 400. It happens in the States where you can lead birds in one-off races for several years. It does need to develop. Old bird one-off races is a direction it can definitely go in. Gary Tomlinson says, not at all, Pete. Check out the owner's interviews. They clearly stated the birds were bred for the distance via John Holstead. Pete says, was on about the breeding of birds, Mark. Roland Jansen's known for short sprinting. Okay, got you. Marshall, I did see your message coming in. I haven't responded yet because I'm just behind on it, but thank you for messaging me. And I didn't know you were a Dr. Marshall, but I do now. And I will be getting back to you. He said for one-off race, for one-off sprint race, you have to change the way of classification based on average speed instead of place, because often a lot of birds arrive together, so it becomes a matter of chance more than quality. Interesting point there. Interesting point, Marshall. Yeah, so, but again, this is all part of how I think things are going to develop. I would personally love to see old bird one-off races. Now, you get into then the technicalities of maybe people won't want to enter their bird into as a yearling race, or a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. But that's where you can, if you're smart about it, that's where you can get other people taking over. There's all kinds of taking ownership of birds. There's all kinds that can be done. Obviously, practicalities wise, old bird one-off racing is a completely different ballgame. But I would like to see it happen over a period of time, because then you can get into real data on each bird. And again, with the long-term vision of getting members of the public involved, that's where you can see things going. And I would love to see old bird one-off races develop. Tom Power says, if you leave birds for extra years, then there has to be an extra payment. And that's the problem. Tom, I really want to get you on as a guest on this show, mate. I would love to have you on as a guest if you're up for that, because you're one of the men that I really do like to listen to their opinions of, and I think you've got some good ones. So let me know if that would happen. But he says, if you leave birds in for extra years, there has to be extra payment. And as I said, this is where you get the technical issues and the practical issues of. But I think it could be different. Instead of the birds, and again, I'm not saying any one of the one-off races out there should change it. Maybe it can be something new coming up. Maybe it's something one of the existing ones can tag on. Not sure technically how you would do it. But at the end of the day, obviously at the moment, standard is you do the racing series, you have the final, birds get auctioned off, and the previous official owner or the breeder of the bird, what have you, gets 50% of the auction money. Leaving those race represents a financial issue in that, like you say, to participate in a yearling race, the owner's got to go back in and pay more. But I think as things develop, you would have a situation where, of course, the owner gets the chance to buy back in their bird for the yearling bird, let's say. But then if owners didn't want to, that's where birds become free, available to be bought by other people. And with the technology out there now and all of the ETS systems, people will be able to come in, you'll be able to have a list of birds that are available, and people will be able to say, based on this bird, this is where it came all the time, I want to buy that bird for this year. And essentially you'll be able to get people to be able to buy birds for that year. Of course, the person that initially put the bird in would have the first choice. But then if they didn't, for whatever one reason, you would have open birds, venture birds, essentially, that would be coming. You could then, with the expansion of bringing new people into it, that's where people can start buying birds for that year and pay the entry fee for that year. And there's no reason over a period of time where that couldn't happen on an ongoing basis. And of course, the old bird one-off racing, first year, second year, 2-year-olds are racing, then you can be bringing in yearlings to that same section. So every year you would be having old birds being topped up, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's just my opinion. Wayne Conway, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Tom Power says, look at the problems the Barcelona Challenge had in France. Chris Davies says the Barcelona Challenge with Lou McGee worked. Wayne Conway said Derby Musmans did a yearling race and got 3 from 1,000 kilometers. Yeah, that is extreme. You see, again, thinking outside of the box a little bit, if you're a flyer in Belgium and I think Holland, you can fly from similar distances. If you're a sprint middleman, you can do sprint middle racing all year round. So the idea of doing, well, that should happen, in my opinion. That should be able to happen in the UK, because at the moment, if you're a sprint middle person, your season finishes at a certain time, and then there's no way really, unless you're doing specific races, nationals or specific clubs. The ability to be able to race a similar distance is something we need to, as part of the revolution, we should look to do. But from a one-off race point of view, there's with old bird races, then you can go through as it currently kind of the status quo is that with old birds over a period of year 3 into it, you can be flying the longer distance birds. Again, 1,000 kilometers for a yearling, pretty extreme. But imagine being able to have a team of established young birds that can fly a series of races. And It doesn't necessarily have to follow the protocol of, you start at 80 miles and you go all the way up. There's absolutely no reason why an old bird one-off race can't be racing from a variety, of course, of distances, but there's no reason why they couldn't be raced smaller distances. It doesn't necessarily have to be a convention of Sept, if that makes sense. Like if you imagine in 5 or 10 years' time, one-off racing to be where, not obviously for long birds, but there could be, my kind of vision of one-off racing is that you can be having a race every day, every single day going on, if obviously set up in a certain way and what have you. There could be a race going on every single day. I know around the world there's pretty much a race going on every single day now, but I'm talking about within the UK and Ireland there could be a race every single day. Gary, if you want to come on as a guest, mate, let me know. Let's see. Wayne says yearling race 692 kilometers sent 100 clocked on benzene 28. Marshall says this one's final for young birds. You see, that's what's that? 250, 270. Yeah, so it's similar to what what Gary does. Gary Thomason says one-off racing on land for 500 birds coming to one loft, and then no matter what the wind and given a clear flight, then I'm sorry, the birds on the land are flying less than 250 miles. They race, they can't fail. Where is the test of birds are healthy? Then the clock. Anthony Brecken says maybe if yearlings don't go up for auction, or even if they did, but on the basis that they stayed in the loft, say the Wild Atlantic Way, for example, until the following year, then they'd be allowed 2 teams to be raced, both young birds and old birds, bringing more interest. Again, there's lots of ways you can do it, Anthony. Yeah. And again, that might be the thing of there's loads of ways. You pay a flat entry fee to enter your bird. You've got first refusal. There could be an auction in the race. So actually, the deal is that up, and then the auction retain the bird. Let's say there's lots of different ways that could be doing it. There's loads, but definitely. And eventually, I'd like to see racing pretty much every day, subject to weather. At the moment, anywhere in the UK and Ireland, there's pretty much horse racing going on, whether it's flat or jump, pretty much every day. Obviously not every single day, but pretty much every day there are races going on. I would like to see, again, not in the depths of winter. I'm not talking about like flying at Christmas, but I would like to see convention booked a little bit and be pretty much a race every day during the season. And that season could be, if you're talking old birds, March for one-off races. It could be March to October. I would like to see that. And it depends the way all of this goes. Because actually, there's no reason why you couldn't have what most people would class as a 20 or 30 mile training. There's no reason why you couldn't turn those in. One of the things I've been trying to figure out and rack my brains about is the turning up to a one-off race. And this is from a bigger picture point of view. With the birds arriving. What do you do? What do you fill that with? Now, I'm not talking as it currently is, right? I'm not talking flyers who know where, you know, are in. I'm talking about from a bigger picture point of view about in 10 years' time, how do you make this day to where non-flyers, members of the public are coming to this day and they want to come? And one of the ideas is we have shorter, small races. Yes, it technically can be done. Practically, it's a bit of it's hassle and it's an extra nightmare. But you could have, in theory, you could have 1 or 2 short races to keep people interested in that gap. Obviously, the thing with horse racing is horses go, couple of minutes, done, right, have a beer, have something to eat, next race. You know, normally about 45 minutes between races. What do you get that? What do you do when it comes to races from a point of view? Let's imagine in 10 years' time, what I'm doing now gets took onto the TV. One-off races are covered on TV as a mainstream thing or a TV thing. What do you get that in between? Hotspot races are great. Like that's why you couldn't have short midweek races. Just ideas, folks. Jeff, think exceptional losses in one-off race, expectable losses in one-off races. Answering needed there, Jeff. I'm not probably the one to answer that. Other people are. My opinion, for what it's worth, unfortunately, and I don't want to be the one. I would like it to be better, but the harsh reality is, at the moment, most one-off races, and again, if anybody's watching that I'm saying wrong, let me know. Most one-off races are looking for 50% of their birds to get to the final. Pete Berry says, do they don't really race at Christmas in Scotland. Wow. Wally, they do. We see, that's what I'm saying. So you could get, again, subject to weather, you could have short little 40, 50, 60-mile races. And if you've got old birds going, you can have daily races. You imagine being able to log on and see a race going on. You can be owning it, you can own it, or you can just be interested in it. That's where it needs to go. William Deans said, excuse me a second. William Dean says the cost of entering one-off races is expensive enough without having old birds to pay for also. Remember, the cost of setting up a loft is cheaper than one-off racing long term. If you're entering more than one of these races, you would need a very good paying job. William, I get what you're saying. I get it. Is this? There's definitely a way, long term, with some thought and strategy, of being able to make old bird one-off racing a thing, because that allows a couple of things to happen. It allows a longer racing period of time. And if you knew going into it, you pay your money and you know that the young bird going in, of course, which it would have to be, will then, if it gets through the final going into next year, it will become an old bird, right? And I get what you're saying about you don't want to have to necessarily pay again. But this is where you could get creative. You could get creative on the auctioning of them. You could get creative on the ability to be able to retain a part and split ownership and have other people buy parts of ownership. There's loads of ways, for that reason that you've just said, there's loads of ways it could be done, right, to make it fair and reasonable. But I definitely think Old Bird Racing has to hit one-off races to make this long-term a thing. Yeah, Willie says there's syndicates. It seems to be a great idea for people to get involved. Yeah, exactly. And guys, I will be setting up a syndicate system for exactly that. People will be able to come to a website. There will be two types of syndicates. So they will come, they will see the one-off race that they're interested in. They will click on it, and they'll be able to say, right, these syndicates are available for your own bird syndicate. These syndicates available for provided birds, or whatever you want to call them, right? So two types of syndicates. We're doing that because we want as many members of the public to be able to get in, so they don't even have to keep a pigeon, but they can be in. So let's say you, as a flyer, you come in and say, right, there's these syndicates available for this one. Right, this syndicate is a three-person syndicate. This person's a 5 or a 6-person syndicate. Therefore, it's costing you not a lot of money at all to get involved in. This syndicate is a 9-bird or a 3-team syndicate, and it's got X amount of people. And there'll be a variety of different ones for different prices. The idea being is that people will be able to get in from about £50 to get involved in a syndicate. That's the core aim there. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. But I definitely want to push, figure out the plan for Old Bird one-off races, because I think it could be really good long term. But anyway, Chris Bennett says, Mark, you mentioned Christmas race. My Pentland Hills Federation have an open race the weekend before Christmas, and it's for big money. How far is that, Chris? Roughly, how far is the race? Be interesting to know. Again, subject to weather. Is there really a reason why you couldn't be racing like that? You know, again, thinking bigger picture, thinking moving this forward to where really, subject to weather, Old Birds, as part of a one-off setup, couldn't be racing pretty much all year round. So again, subject to weather. It's an interesting thing. Again, over the last 10 years, 5 years, really, one-off racing has progressed massively. But to take it to the next step, that thinking out the box and pushing things forward, because I tell you now, mainstream adoption is possible long-term with this, right? It is. It really is a possible thing long-term. Some things are going to change. There's some public perception stuff that's got to change, but it is possible long-term. Peter Bell, hello. Hi, Pete. You well? Anthony says, yeah, it's pretty expensive, but getting a team of lads together, it doesn't have to be. Absolutely, Anthony. That's what we want to do. I want it to be where from 50 quid, people can get involved in a syndicate. That's my goal. Chris Bennett says 70, 85 miles. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't, these races, these midweek races don't have to be big races. For Old Birds, you could have, like you say, you could have winter races at 60, 70 mile. And it keeps that interest going, but you need, it needs some switches and some changes. I'd be interested in your opinions on this, Gary. Not I'm asking you to do it, but I'd be interested in, Gary, if you your opinions, idea of Old Bird one-off races. Let's say hello to a few people that have joined us while we've been chatting. David Penrose, Maxina Houlihan, Carl Donnelly's in. Carl, I'd be interested in if you're still watching, Carl, I'd be interested in your opinions on what we've just been talking about, because you are big into one-off races. Nuno Gonvales is in. Anthony Robinson's in. Thomas O'Connor, James Mullen, Paul Fairweather, Callum Maloney, Mark Payne. Cool. Thank you for joining, guys. See what other comments we've got. Chris Davies says, I think one-off racing should be advertised to the general public, whether it be on radio or TV. Again, I completely agree. But the infrastructure and certain things have got to happen before that happens. But I agree. We've got to take it mainstream. And this debate of one-off races versus regular club racing, not really a debate to happen. Either one of two things is going to happen. The sport outside of one-off racing for a minute, the sport is either going to shake up, figure out what is going on and how they're going to change it, or it's not. If it shakes up, great. When I mean shake up, I'm talking about a whole bunch of different things that need to happen. If it doesn't, ultimately, the sport will decline in numbers to where it literally is just over a few thousand people racing at club fed level. If you look at the stats, it's going down. Bring one-off racing back into that, it's a different ballgame. And I definitely think it can help a great deal. And from a mainstream, like I've said, 3 stages to this. Bring members of the public interested in one-off racing. They don't even have to touch a bird. They've got an entry into the bird. Get them coming to the finals. Get them coming to watching the hotspot races live. All of that stuff. Get them an interest. A certain portion of them people think, you know what? I want to breed my own birds to enter these races. You'll get birds keeping in small stock lofts with, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pair in their garden breeding their own birds for one-off races. Stage 3 is a portion of those people think, you know what? I want to race these birds myself. I think that's the way you get people in addition to plugging into schools, in addition to plugging into certain areas of society that pigeon racing can help them. Obviously, you do that still. You plug into schools, you show people the benefits. You deal with people that, there's groups of people out there that this sport can really help, really help. Obviously, all of that happens, but to get the big numbers, the big juicy numbers that this sport needs, certainly within Europe, UK and Ireland, interested. Don't care what anybody says, we've got to get that mainstream interest, because mainstream interest creates money. Money creates more of a infrastructure to move forward. And I still have a vision of this one day sport being covered on TV, just like horse racing and greyhound racing. But the evolution of one-off racing, I think involves old bird racing as well. I really do. Over time. Chris Davis says, definitely. Gary Thompson says, to be honest, Mark, I'm not at all a fan of old bird one-off racing. Why many may ask. Firstly, to give 100% attention to young birds, there would not be enough time to do the birds justice. Winter racing, no chance. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. Like I said, actually technically get doing that is I can see would be problematic. But I think it's probably some that up, and that's what it is. It's actually a one-off race, become an old bird race as a separate thing. I don't for 1 minute think, especially with the plans you've got next year, Gary, that you could go and do it. It just practically wouldn't be possible. But this is where I still think it needs to happen. But again, there'll be different types. Yeah, and again, Tom's just said, Tom says, I agree with you, Gary. Certain things need focus to be successful unless you have a team of guys working for it. Absolutely. I get what you're saying completely. yeah, I get what you're saying. But again, we're looking at it in conventional terms. What I mean by that is one of the things that I mentioned previously, many months ago now, is the idea of community lofts. So you extend that into, if you imagine community lofts as a little mini one loft race, and then an area competing with each now. And I'm not saying that, you as a one. I know it wouldn't be possible. It just wouldn't be possible. But yeah, by figuring it out. It comes down to focus and manpower and what have you. Anthony says, now you have it, Mark. Look at what Joe Freely is doing with educating both children and adults with his doves. Spread knowledge through events such as weddings, etc. Great. I know he's been doing good things. I haven't had time to look what he's doing, but I will do, Anthony. Thank you for that. Yeah, Tom, I agree with what you're saying, mate. I do. I'll think about that more, because the thing that would prevent, imagine somebody flying old birds and young birds at the moment. The thing that would obviously impact the focus is the sheer amount of birds, right? But old bird racing, you wouldn't necessarily have to have that many. We wouldn't be talking. We wouldn't have to be talking about hundreds of birds. You could be talking less than 100 birds, but it's still something to keep that interest going in between the young birds. I want to think more about that. Tony Burns says, coming soon. What's coming soon, mate? Let me know, please. Neil Dallas Great Witch says, hi, Mark. The only problem I see with the public getting involved is 3 pigeons enter 500 pigeons. Is 3 pigeon enter against 500 pigeons. Gives you a 497 chance of winning 20K. First bird plays about 150 to 1. And anyone knows about gambling would call a bad bet. Yeah, you wouldn't do it like that, Neil. You do pool betting, and there's all kinds of different markets. Like I don't specifically want to talk about it now, but I'm going to be launching something called Flybet, which will be an online betting country of the breeder, winning owner, all kinds of different things. And in a conventional pool bet sense, you could do it. So you wouldn't necessarily have odds on birds as such, if that makes sense. But I kind of know what you're saying, but I think there's ways around it. Chris Davis says maybe a free entry as a prize on radio to Joe Public. Gary Tomlinson, sorry I posted before I had to finish. My father always said, Gary, never send a bird to work in cold, damp weather. It's common knowledge that heat brings out birds into common knowledge that heat brings old birds into form, and the harder, the better they do, like humans, we work. I get what you're saying, mate. And again, I'm not saying it could be in the winter, but what I'm saying with the old bird stuff is, you could have a season from, say, March to October, as this bigger vision of what I see going on with one-off racing is, in certain parts of the world, our winter is people's summer. So there would be other things going on, not specifically within the UK. Yeah. But again, I get what you're saying, Gary, about winter racing here and what have you. And again, I hate the bloody cold, so I completely get what you're saying. Peter says, "Nice to see you all happy tonight." Thank you, mate. It has been a challenging week. I don't mind admitting, but I'm all right. I'm all right. Doing these things actually make me feel better. It's good. So yeah, we'll see. But these are my ideas, and I definitely think categorically this is a big part of our future. And again, I'm not one that says, I think regular racing is going to finish and there'll be nobody doing it. I don't personally agree with that. But I think this stuff is a big part of the future. Stuart Wilson's watching, Andrew Wilton's watching, and Aaron Ennis is, after a busy old day, managed to tune in as well. Don't forget, Mr. Aaron Ennis is going to be guest hosting this show on the last Thursday and the last Monday of this month. I'm down in Portugal. He's going to be there. So yeah, we've done about an hour now. So that kind of free flowed, and I know some would say he's always talking about one-off races, that guy, and yes, I am. I don't apologize. There was other things on the schedule that I had to talk about if we wanted, but I think it's an important part of the future. I do. I think it can really help. If anybody's got any young bird sexing tips, extra ones, please let us know so I can pass that on to the person that asked. As I say, I'm going to be looking. I've just seen Ian Evans has joined. You caught the tail end, Ian, and I want to take you up for, which you perhaps reluctantly now regret making, of coming on live at some point. Yeah, that'd be nice, Ian. And glad to see you watching. As I said, I'm open. This is not my show. This is yours. If you want to talk about stuff, you can come on as a guest. I would love to have you as a guest. I'm looking to work on the guests. The reality is I've been a bit busy to chase the guests I want, but I'm on it. Yeah, so I will be back on Monday. Pete Berry says one-off racing is the future. I agree. It is. It is. From day one of when I first saw what South Africa was doing all those years ago, and the San Diego Classic and the one in Las Vegas, I knew this was the future. But there's so much more we can do to get it mainstream. So yeah, I will post a little bit closer to the time what time I'm looking to go. I'm pleased to say that I announced yesterday that RPRI and I are going to be doing all of the marketing and promotion for Gary's Who Dares Wins race next year. You will already start seeing some changes. We've got some new logo designs and what have you, and I'm going to be covering everything as I've done this year for Gary. And the birds, we've just fixed the auction time, actually. People have been asking about the auction of the Who Dares Wins birds, and I can tell you that the auction of the finalists will be starting on September the 26th, finishing on the 3rd of October. 26th of September, the birds will go up for sale on rpiauctions.com, and they will finish on the 3rd. So yeah, I've got the RPRA Sunday. I'm going back to Mark Walker's open day the following Sunday, and then it's the Algarve down in Portugal for the 2 races there. I will be back on Monday. If you haven't yet joined our group, please do so. Here. It's a scary finger. Please do so here. Facebook.com/groups/Racing Pigeon International. Go Facebook.com/Racing Pigeon International. As I said, all of the broadcasts for Racing Pigeon International, the TV, everything we're doing are going out now on Racing Pigeon International. If you're watching this already, you're watching it via Okay, I've just seen some more comments. Off racing is the future, but he's doing it with a puzzled, questioning face. Gary says, Mark, I'd like to come on and give some advice about important facts at this time of year regarding health before pairing up, etc. Gary, you are on, if you can do it, mate, Monday show. That would be very good. Please let me know if you can do Monday show. I'll speak to you anyway. William Deans, what do you do with the old birds? Year one, you maybe have, let's say, 100 left. So every season you would have birds go and into show, and we can get him on talking about that. Pete Berry said good night. Thank you for watching. Again, go and like the Facebook group, facebook.com/racing pitch. Yet done so, please share this TV show, let as many people know about it as possible. I will be back on Monday evening at the moment at 9 o'clock. And remember, go and vote on the poll in the Racing Pigeon International group to give me your opinion on the best time, whether it should stay at 9 o'clock as it is now, or it should go 8 o'clock, 7 or 6. I think 6 is way too early, probably, personally. We bring it forward to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Again, would like your opinion. I will go with majority vote on that. I am so much for watching, guys. Have a good rest of your evening. And have a good night.